Everybody to the Wolfsdorf Rosenthal EB-5 webinar entitled EB-5 What to Expect in the Year of the Monkey. Since most of the audience are Chinese, I do not need to explain that we are now in the year of the monkey.
欢迎大家参加我们的 Wolfsdorf Rosenthal 网络讲座。我们今天的主题是 EB-5 猴年展望。
I am going to try and keep this short in recognition of your time. I might even finish in 45 minutes. So I do apologize, but we will not be answering questions as we usually do in our chat at the end.
我们今天的讲座会比较简短因为时间的限制，我们可能在45分钟之内就会结束。然后今天是没有那个提问和现场提问回答的环节的。如果大家有问题的话，可以单独发 email 给我们。
If you do have questions, please email them to my assistant Mary Ma, mma@wolfsdorf.com. So if you have questions at the end, please feel free to email to Mary Ma, mma@wolfsdorf.com, and we will try and answer them within the next few days.
大家如果有问题的话，可以把 email 发到Bernie 的助理 Mary 那里，她的 email 是 mma@wolfsdorf.com， 我们争取在明天之内回复大家。
I will mention to you again that this webinar does not constitute legal advice. If you have legal questions, we encourage you to email us or contact us or to consult with a licensed professional immigration lawyer who can advise you further.
今天的讲座不构成任何的法律咨询意见。如果您有法律方面的问题，请咨询移民律师或者其他有职业执照的律师。
The topics that we are going to cover today is possible changes in new legislation, possible changes to the program in new legislation, together with the Chinese waiting line issue.
我们今天的主题主要是讲法律法规上可能会发生的变化，以及中国申请人排期的问题。
We will also be covering possible solutions to the waiting line, as well as new procedures on following up with cases and other visa options besides EB-5.
我们还会谈到针对 EB-5 现在的状况，政府可能会给出的解决的办法，以及最新出来的对于逾期的申请如何跟进的办法，以及我们可以考虑除了 EB-5 之外的其他签证的类型。
This is some information on our firm, the Wolfsdorf Rosenthal firm. If we can be of assistance, please feel free to contact us. That is our team in Santa Monica. In the middle and the back is me with the glasses. And as you can see, that is our wonderful team of approximately 50 people. We also have many in our New York office.
这张照片是我们整个 Santa Monica 公司的人员，大概50人左右。然后我们还有在纽约的另外一个办公室。
As I explained, this presentation will not constitute legal advice. So the first topic I want to briefly touch on here is this shows the number of 526 filings for fiscal year 2000 up until September 30th, and a total of 14,000 new petitions were filed last year with USCIS, and we have presently approximately 90% approval rate on 526 and 99% approval rate on 829s.
在2015年的财年，我们移民局一共收到了14000份新的526申请，然后目前526和829通过率分别是89%以及99%。
I am ready to predict that when the next approval rates are published, the statistics will be much lower. I do not expect to see 90% and 99% approvals moving forward.
我们现在可以预测到的是，当今年公布通过率的数字的时候，肯定会比这个数字要低，不会高于90%的。
I want to talk very briefly about what is going to happen. As of the present time, there are 7 bills in Congress dealing with EB-5.
我们想简短谈一下法律这一块的情况。目前针对 EB-5的法案有7个。
There is a possibility that again we will get a straight extension for 1 more year with no changes.
一种可能性是我们会拿到再1年的延期，然后没有对现在的法律没有任何改变。
The second possibility is that we will get extension with integrity measures, and I think this is the most likely outcome of the legislation and the legislative debate.
第二种可能性是可能性最高的一种就是我们会拿到EB-5的延期，以及会增加一些有关于诚信方面的措施。
And the third possibility, of course, is that we will get an extension with integrity measures plus other changes such as those dealing with TEA and increases in the minimum investment amount.
第三种可能性就是在延期的同时呢，增加诚信方面的法律规定以及其他法律规定，比如说有关于TEA 投资区域的规定以及对投资金额的增加。
Unfortunately, some of the measures, the integrity measures, will be enacted, in my opinion, and we must be ready to address those as of today in terms of the filing of cases that we are submitting already.
现在看来，诚信法律的很有可能被通过，所以大家在今天如果在递交526申请的时候，也应该考虑到这些情况。
As I have mentioned, these so-called integrity measures, there's several different laws, several different bills. These bills are 80 pages long. I am going to give a very brief summary of some of the proposals in the integrity measures.
目前有很多不同的法案出台，然后通常都是长篇大论的，多达70多页的法案。我们对这些法案做了以下的总结。
One of the measures requires the regional center to certify that the new commercial enterprise, the job-creating enterprise, are in fact in compliance with securities and all other laws. This is going to be quite difficult, but they're putting the burden on the regional center to certify as to certain requirements.
比如说，第一个就是他们要求区域中心加强监管力度，以遵守美国证券法的规定。这个执行起来是非常困难的，也给区域中心很大的压力。但是这是他们目前想要推出的一个要求。
For example, it will specifically regulate who can own a regional center, who can manage a regional center, and it will require background investigation of people involved in the EB-5 business.
比如说，他们要求规定什么样的人才能拥有区域中心或者管理区域中心，并且要求对这些人进行背景调查。
There has been some concern about foreign ownership and foreign government involvement in regional centers. As of the present time, there are at least one major regional center or project which has foreign ownership, and I'm pleased to report that that project just got its first approvals last week. So as of the present time, this is not an issue. It may become an issue if integrity measures are enacted.
目前市面上有一个比较主要的区域中心是有外国人持有的，但是我们刚听到这个区域中心的第一个 case 被批准了，所以目前看来这个是没有问题的，但是在今后可能会出现一些问题。
The integrity measures also explain what the fines and punishment are for regional centers that do not comply with the new rules.
诚信法案还可能会规定对于区域中心的处罚条例，如果他们不遵守法律的规定，会受到一些处罚。
So let's deal now with possible changes in the law. The first one to talk about is the increase in the minimum EB-5 investment amount.
我们现在来看一下可能会发生变化的法律。第一个是有可能会提高 EB-5 最低投资金额。
3 times last year, I predicted that they will increase the minimum investment amount for EB-5, and of course 3 times I was wrong, so I'm not prepared to say how much and when, but I am still confident that they will increase the minimum amount.
去年我们预计了3次有可能会增加金额，投资金额的那个时间，但是最终都没有增加，所以我们现在还是无法确认他们什么时候会增加投资金额以及增加金额的数量，但是可以确定的是投资金额肯定会增加的。
And if the US Congress does not increase the minimum amount, I am absolutely confident that the USCIS, the administration, will do it by regulation.
如果国会不通过变法来增加投资金额的话，我们也相信移民局会通过行政法案来增加这个投资金额的。
The second big change will be, and again, none of these are clear, these are all possible changes, but the second big issue is TEA, targeted employment areas.
大家看到的这一些可能发生的变化，只是一些预测，就还不是已经肯定的变化。但是其中有一个讨论的比较热烈的，就是目标就业区 TEA 的变化。
Just jumping to the next slide, and I will come back to this slide as well, you will see that a total of, and I'm just looking at China, a total of 27 cases were filed in the $1 million range, and the rest were all in the EB-5 $500,000 TEA range.
这个数据显示，中国的申请人只有27个是递交的100万的，就是不是在那个 TEA 区域的申请，然后其他的全都是50万美金的 TEA 区域的申请。
Looking at the bottom of the chart, you will see that for the whole world, a total of 33 cases were filed at 1 million, and the rest were all filed under the $500,000 category.
从全世界的范围看，只有33个是递交的100万的非目标就业区的申请，其他的也都是50万的 TEA 区域的申请。
So as of the present time, TEA is obviously very important.
所以现在看来 TEA 区域申请是更加重要的。
The main issue with regard to TEA is urban projects versus rural projects.
针对 TEA 最重要的一个热点讨论就是城市的项目以及农村项目。
The rural politicians want to see more money go to the rural areas, and the urban politicians want to see the money go into the big cities.
农村来的政客呢，他们就希望农村的项目得到更多的资金支持，但是城市的，比如说议员，他们就希望城市能得到更多的EB-5投资金额的支持。
It is my view that at the end there will be some sort of compromise, and we will have changes that will affect both.
我们认为到最终两方都会做出一些妥协，然后会有一个可以顾及两方利益的一个法律。
The most important thing is if Congress will change the number of visas allocated and move to counting petitions, not individuals.
有一种可能就是国会增加了EB-5可以获得的签证数量，不是以每个申请人的 人头来算，而是根据申请的数量来算。
While there are one or two categories, very small categories that count petitions, not individuals. The one is international broadcasters, and the other one is Afghani translators, small new categories. But there are categories in the law which count petitions, not individuals. But I do not see that happening this year.
就现在的移民法来说，也有一些小的移民类别是按照申请的数量，而不是按照申请人和家属的人头来算的。比如说，国际就是 BOA 那个广播中心他们的员工的那种签证申请，以及阿富汗的翻译人员他们的签证申请，都是根据那个申请的数量来算。但是发生这个变化，今年发生这种改革的可能性不大。
There are two very good things which are being proposed. The one is if a regional center is terminated because of a problem, what happens to all of the investors? For example, there's two cases I'm aware of right now where there are over 100 investors and the government has moved to terminate the regional centers.
法案当中有几个比较好的提案是，第一个是针对被关停的区域中心，怎么样来保护投资者的签证。我们看到目前有一个区域中心，它已经有100个以上的投资人，但是现在政府想要把它停掉。
My hope is that Congress will make changes that will allow investors who invested in good faith to continue with the EB-5 application and allow another regional center to take over the existing project and continue to process the green card for those individuals.
我们希望看到国会允许那些就是通过有诚意、诚信投资的申请人，如果他们投资的项目或者区域中心被停关的话，我们希望国会可以允许他们继续他们的EB-5申请，或者是移到其他的项目里，不要打断他们的EB-5申请的情况。
The biggest problem that we have with problem cases is even when you refile them, which is the current procedure, is that when you refile, the children age out. So there are recommendations in the new laws to protect those children from aging out when you refile the case. So this is very important.
我们还看到的就是，比如说申请人的第一个申请被拒了，他要重新递交，但是如果重新递交的话，小孩子就有可能超龄了。我们看到法案里有推荐说，如果是这种情况的话，只要申请人重新递交，小孩子还可以根据第一次的递交日期来受到年龄的保护。
There are other very positive parts of the proposed proposed statute, including premium processing, which would allow for approvals within 14 days, concurrent filing, where you can file both the 526 together with adjustment of status, and improvements in the 829 removal of condition. So there are many proposals in these new laws which are very good for the program.
在新的法律提案里面也有一些很多很好的地方，比如说有人提议可以用加速申请来改进526的递交，就是允许526在14天之内获得审理的结果，或者是说可以允许同时递交526和转身份的申请，以及是对829申请的改进。
The one proposal which I expect we will continue to see that is very, very big is that with the regional center program and regional center applications, a certain percentage, maybe 10% of the jobs will have to be direct actual jobs, and no more than 90% can be indirect or induced jobs. So this will very very severely change the current program where a specific percentage of actual or direct jobs must be created.
还有的提案当中，可能会造成整个 EB-5的重大改变，就是他们规定创造的工作机会必须是10%是直接工作机会，90%为间接工作机会，而现在是对间接工作机会没有这个百分比的限制的。如果他们通过这个法律的话，可能会非常严重的改变 EB-5的现况。
What scares me very much over this is talk that these requirements may be retroactive, possibly even to October last year, so that those projects that do not have any direct jobs may find themselves with some problem.
还有一个比较重要的问题是，有可能在将来 EB-5发生法律上的改变的时候，它这个变化可能会有追溯力，或者是有可能追溯到去年的10月份。如果是这样的话，那10月以后递交的那个项目申请，如果没有直接工作机会的话，可能会有一些问题。
And one of the most serious problems that we have is new requirements on the source of funds and proving lawful source of funds.
还有一个重要的问题就是可能会在资金来源的证明方面有一些新的要求。
We might prepare, possibly next month, possibly in April, a separate webinar dealing only with source of funds issues and problem issues in adjudication.
我们可能会在将来或者下个月或者4月的时候单独开一个讲座来讨论这个那个资金来源证明的问题。
Everybody is aware that at the moment the EB-5 industry is fairly slow.
大家可能都感觉到了，目前 EB-5这一个行业渐渐的降温下来了。
This is the way it was even last year. Up until the Chinese New Year, things were slow.
这个情况在去年也是同样的，就是在中国农历新年的这段期间，进展都是很缓慢的。
After Chinese New Year, we expect it to pick up, but this year there are still other issues we have to deal with.
在中国农历新年之后，我们期望这个进度会加快一些，但是今年面对的问题可能还是会有。
One of the reasons why EB-5 is slow is that many clients are reporting that they are having some difficulty getting the money out of China at this time.
造成进度缓慢的原因之一呢，是我们有的客户反映说，他们现在不容易把钱从中国打到美国。
While my office is not actively involved in this aspect of the business, the reports that we hear is that the so-called friends and family method of sending out 50,000 is being subject to some level of scrutiny.
我们的法律从事的法律行业不涉及中国法律问题，但是从我们听到的情况来看，是说中国的监管部门对于每人每年可以打5万资金出国的这个情况，可能是如果你打到同一个账户，他们监管的力度就会加强了。
It seems that those situations where 10 people transfer $50,000 to 10 different people are being approved.
但是我们现在看到的就是，比如说你在中国境内找10个或10个以上亲友打款，分别往美国打到不同的账户上，这种情况可能受到的监管要小一些。
But those situations where 10 people transfer to one individual under so-called aggregation, those are being subject to more scrutiny and are more difficult at the present time.
但是如果是按照以前的传统的方式，就是10几个人打到同一个账户，这样是很有可能会被监管部门查到的。
So I mentioned that last year the approval rate was 90%, and I'm predicting that next year it's going to be lower.
所以我们就是预计今年的通过率会比去年要低一些。
And the problems are going to come mainly in these three areas.
造成的原因有以下主要3种。
One restriction is that money can only be given, or gifts can only be given by immediate family members, from parents to children, from children to parents, but not from uncles or aunts.
其中一个原因是有可能法律改编之后只允许近亲直接赠与投资款，比如说从父母赠与小孩，小孩赠与父母，或者是祖父母赠与那个申请人，但是其他亲属，比如说叔叔阿姨或者是男女朋友之间的赠与，有可能以后的法律都不允许了。
That seems very unreasonable. Lots of people have rich uncles or aunts who like to help their nephew and children, but that is the proposal, so we shall see soon.
虽然我们认为这个限制非常的不合理但是这是提交法案的其中几个法案当中提到的部分。
We've also seen situations where gifts are made from boyfriend to girlfriend, and it appears that unless you are actually related, that may no longer be allowed.
现在我们有看到男女朋友之间赠与投资款的情况，但是这个法律通过以后可能会认为你除了在亲属血缘方面有关系可以赠与之外，这种男女朋友之间的赠与有可能他们会禁止了。
The second point is huge, and we are going to see more and more denials on this problem.
第二个问题就是非常重要的，我们可能会看到很多因为这一个原因被拒签的申请。
Not many people keep $500,000 lying in a bank account.
因为不是很多人都是直接有50万投资现金的。
So in most cases, the money is secured based on the mortgage of property.
所以大部分中国申请人的申请投资资金来源都是通过房屋作为抵押贷款。
In China, for example, many people put the property in the name of their children, or the children put their property in their parents' name.
在中国很常见的一种情况就是有的人买了房子放在小孩子的名下，或者是小孩子的房子放在父母的名下。
This is strongly disfavored, and under the current interpretation, you can only mortgage your own property.
这个可能会有很大的问题，因为目前移民局的认可的方式是说，你必须借款人必须用自己的个人财产作为借款的担保。
So unless it's been between a husband and wife, if two people own the property and you only own half the property, that half has to be worth more than 500,000.
所以除非是两个共有人是夫妻的关系，不然的话，如果一个共有人只有房产的一半，这一半的价值必须大于你要借出来的这个借款的金额。
So joint ownership cases are currently a problem unless it's between a husband and wife, because the individual has to show that their share of the ownership is greater than the amount that is being borrowed, and that adequate collateral has been provided to cover the full amount of the loan.
总的来说呢，现在共有财产作为抵押有可能会遇到问题，除非是由夫妻双方的共有财产，或者是说一个共有人他名下的份额部分就已经足够抵押他的这个借款的金额了。
This is not a possible change in the law. It may be written into the law, but this is the way the cases are currently being adjudicated, and lots of denials are being issued on this issue.
虽然这个地方这一条是现在法律当中存在的新的法律我们还没有看到，但是在法案当中也提到这一条。目前我们看到的是移民局 拒签了很多这样子用公有财产贷款的这样的申请，所以大家做这种申请的时候需要格外小心。
The third point, that loans must come from a licensed financial institution, and again I'm talking about China because the program is currently 90% Chinese, and in many instances people may get loans from their corporations, from their businesses. Those loans may no longer be acceptable.
第三点是法案里提到说借款必须是由有执照的财政机构来贷款，也就是说是正规的银行。所以如果这条法案通过的话，也就是说申请人不能再从自己的公司或者是私人那里借钱来做EB-5了。
So again, company loans can certainly be an issue and a problem, and you have to be very careful to make sure that if you're going to loan the money from the company, it is based on declared profits, not undeclared profits.
所以现在看来，移民局对资金来源审核会越来越严。所以虽然这个法律现在还没有通过，希望大家可以记住这一条，就是说，如果从公司贷款的话，一定是要从要么是用分红的形式来作为投资资金，要么就是一定要用股权作为抵押。然后不能用未分配的利润，因为他们移民局认为未分配利润，就算你是公司的唯一的股东，未分配利润还是算作将来的利润，不是你既得的财产。
So this chart tells the whole story on EB-5.
这张图呢，大概概括了现在EB-5申请的一个主要的情况。
Everybody tells me that Brazil is going to be the next big China, but I see only 18 cases were filed last year.
有人说巴西会成为下一个中国，但是现在看来巴西的数量还是非常远远的低于中国的申请的数量。
I know at least 20 lawyers who went to Brazil looking for EB-5 cases, and 20 regional centers went there, so probably many of them did not even sign up one case. So Brazil is clearly not a very strong market yet. That may change.
听说有一些区域中心或者律师去巴西想要找一些潜在的顾客，但是现在看来巴西还并不是一个非常大的市场。
What we see is the top 5 countries, China, Vietnam, Taiwan, Korea, and India, all Asian countries, with China being close to 90% and the rest about 5%, and then the rest of the world altogether about 5%.
现在大家看到申请最多数量的就是中国、越南、台湾、韩国以及印度，都是亚洲的国家。中国占了86%以上，然后其他的国家加起来，除了这5大国之外，其他的加起来不到5%。
I do think this will change, but it's going to change slowly.
这个可能会发生变化，但是变化会非常慢。
So let's talk a little bit about the Chinese waiting line.
我们现在来谈一下中国EB-5排期的问题。
Everybody uses the word retrogression. I'm trying to stop them because we have not yet had retrogression.
很多人用了提到排期倒退这个词，但是其实目前都还没有发生排期倒退的情况。
Retrogression is when the numbers actually go backwards.
Retrogression 就是他们提到的排期倒退，是指那个排期的时间，从现在的日期移到更早以前了。
This chart shows the current visa bulletin for March 2016.
这个表
March 2016.
这个表体现了2016年3月的签证公告栏。
Chart A, which is the final action date, shows that China EB-5 is being processed in the month of March for those people who filed before January 22, 2014.
大家可以看到表 A 就是 FAD 这个表呢，它的中国人的排期是在2014年1月22号，也就是说在这个日期之前， 递交的申请现在都可以得到签证的那个名额了。
If the visa bulletin chart for April 2016 shows January 15, then it would be called retrogression.
我们所说的排期倒退的情况，就是比如说到今年的4月，也就是2016年4月的时候，这个中国人的排期日期如果变成2014年1月15日，也就是说比1月22日还要早的，这个情况才叫做排期倒退。
But every month, the Department of State has moved the Chinese EB-5 number forward. So if they move it to January 27, that is not retrogression. They're moving it, the number, forward by 1 week.
如果说我们目前看来，这个签证公告都是往前移的，比如说到下个月的时候，它有可能就移到2014年1月27号，那么这种情况就叫做往前移、往后移，而并不是排期倒退的情况。
But we will see the numbers move very slowly. The Chinese numbers move very slowly forward in the next few months.
但是我们预计在今后的几个月，这个日期改变会非常非常的缓慢。
In fact, if you want me to make a prediction, I will predict that by the end of this year, that is by September 2016, the visa number will not go beyond April 2014.
我预期的是在今年财政年结束，也就是2016年的9月的时候，这个排期日期不会晚于2014年的4月。
So anybody who filed after June 2014 probably will not get an appointment for a green card before October 1 of this year.
所以在2014年6月之后递交申请的人，可能在今年的10月之前都不会排到。
And if you look at chart B, which is the date for filing, this is the date for filing adjustment of status in the United States. Unfortunately, this cannot be used to file adjustment unless the US Immigration Service says you can use it.
大家看到表 B 就是 DFF 这个表，它的日期是非常后面的，但是他们现在不允许再用这个表了，除非移民局再公开说我们现在可以用这个表来递交转身份的申请。
So while we were able to use chart B in the month of October and November last year to file adjustment, we have never been able to use it since.
我们去年有2个月10月11月的时候可以用到这个表 B 来给申请人递交转身份的申请，但是后面就再也没有可以使用这个表了。
For EB-5 purposes, chart B is a waste of time and not even helpful, but just confusing.
所以对中国的EB-5申请人来说，表 B 就是完全没有任何用处了，可以不用考虑。
So let me go back to my waiting line question.
现在回到排期的时间的这个问题。
We see that in May 2015, the waiting line went to about 2 years.
我们看到2015年5月的时候，排期达到了大概2年。
Since that time, the waiting line has been very constant at about 2 years.
从那以后，排期大概都是在2年左右这样浮动。
What we do see is thousands and thousands of cases have been filed in the last year.
但是我们知道的是，去年有非常非常多的申请递交。
Obviously, the waiting line will get longer.
所以很明显的，这个排期的时间会越来越长。
I have even heard people say the waiting line will be 5 or 6 years.
好，我们听有的人说，他们觉得排期会达到5到6年的时间。
I do not see how we can predict how long the waiting line will be.
我们不认为任何人可以预计 中国排期的时间的长度。
The reason why we cannot predict the waiting line is let's look at the visa bulletin for China second preference cases or China third preference cases. China second preference master's degree currently shows a wait line of about 4 years.
为什么我们说不能预计中国 EB-5 排期的时间呢？我们可以举个例子，比如说大家看表 A 里面第2类就是工作签证的那一类，中国人的排期现在是2012年8月1号，也就是说有一个4年的排期。
China third preference shows a wait for a green card that's with a bachelor's degree sponsored perm application currently takes about 3 years.
或者大家看第3类，也就是本科学历的人的工作申请，他现在的排期是2013年6月1号，也就是说现在有一个3年的排期。
I can promise you that Chinese third preference will not be 3 years.
但是我们可以保证第3类的排期时间不会是3年。
And I can promise you that the second preference number, which is currently showing 4 years, will also change.
我们也可以保证第二类现在显示的是4年的排期时间，但是这个也是会发生变化的。
So these numbers are only showing the current waiting line.
所以就是说这些数字只是显示一个当今的，就是现在的一个排期的时间。
We know that there will be a new president in the United States in 1 year's time.
这些排期的时间是会变化的，原因就是因为在2017年呢，美国会有一个新的总统。
We know that about 1 million green cards are issued every year.
现在美国每年差不多发出去100万张绿卡。
It is my belief that the US government after the election will try and deal with some of the problems of the immigration system.
我们相信在新的总统上台之后会颁布一些移民法方面的改革措施。
At the present time, we issue about 40,000 green cards to the brother and sister of US citizens.
现在来说，每年美国发4万个绿卡给美国公民的兄弟姐妹、亲属类的移民。
I am confident that the government will look at the current allocation system and change it from the present mainly family immigration to employment and also investor immigration to support employment and investor immigrants.
我们相信政府新的总统上台之后会重新分配绿卡的分配数字，会从着重于家庭类移民而改变到工作类或者是说投资类移民，会增加投资移民或者是工作类移民绿卡的数量。
However, if the government does not increase the number of visas available for EB-5, there are 2 other very easy solutions to the waiting line problem.
就算政府不增加 EB-5 签证的数量，现在也有2个讨论的比较多的解决中国人排期问题的解决方法。
The one solution would be to parole into the US people with approved 526 and allow them to file adjustment.
第一个方法就是允许526申请通过的人拿到parole 的卡，也就是说可以出入境美国。
So if the government paroles people with approval of a 526 and allows them to enter the US and file adjustment, the current cutoff date is May 1, 2015.
所以如果政府允许526通过的人拿到 parole 进入美国的话，目前的截止时间就是2015年5月1日。
Parole sounds like something complicated, but it is something that is approved for almost every single marriage case in the US where the person is legal. We get a parole travel document while the application is pending.
parole 现在主要是比如说是运用于那个结婚的移民申请，就是如果这个人他是在美国持有合法身份的话，就可以直接在美国转身份，并且拿到一个parole 的一个卡，允许你出入境美国。
If this is applied to EB-5 investors, the issue of the Chinese waiting line is solved.
如果他们同意EB-5这个使用 parole 这一个程序的话，那么中国人排期的问题就解决了。
There is one other important point, however, and that is to make sure that the child's age can be frozen under the Child Status Protection Act.
还有一个比较重要的因素就是我们想要知道可不可以用这个 Part-B 的时间来锁住小孩子的年纪。
Some of my webinars have dealt with this topic. I encourage you to go online to our website at wolfsdorf.com. You can listen to all of the old webinars. Some of them deal exclusively with this issue of Child Status Protection Act.
我们曾经在以前的那个网络讲座里单独讨论过这个问题，所以大家如果想知道更多的信息的话，可以去我们的网站 wolfsdorf.com 看我们以前的讲座的资料，里面有很多讨论这个锁住小孩子年龄的话题。
But to make it very simple, if we can use Chart B, date for filing, to freeze the child's age, then pretty much all the children will be protected.
如果我们可以用表 B 来锁住小孩子年龄的话，那几乎所有的小孩都可以被保护了。
The problem is that the State Department and the government has not yet told us whether we can use Chart B to freeze the child's age.
但是到目前来说，政府都还没有最终决定是不是可以用表 B 来锁住子女的年龄。
The question really is, to talk in a legal terms, is the visa available?
主要的一个问题就是签证是不是有名额。
If the visa is available based on a May 1, 2015 priority date, pretty much everybody is going to be covered. If visa is only available under January 22 priority date, then some children can age out.
如果他们认定为2015年5月1号这一天为签证有名额，那么大部分小孩就可以保住了。但是如果他们认定只有2014年1月22日这个日期为被定义为签证有名额，那有的小孩可能就会超龄。
So I want to talk about some new developments and positive things that the government has done.
现在跟大家说一下政府推出的一些比较好的方法。
Firstly, we can see that the waiting line for 526 is now 16 months average, and for 829, 16.2 months.
目前的526平均审核时间是16个月，829的平均审核时间是16.2个月。
And this is the date as of December 31, so maybe it's got longer.
这个日期是12月31号，2015年12月31号的，所以现在可能会更长了。
The IPO has now created a new system whereby after you have emailed the IPO, if they are past this date, you can do a follow-up email requesting that the adjudication review be escalated.
就是如果那个申请已经逾期的话，现在可以发升级的询问邮件，就是 escalate email 来催促移民局审核你的申请。
This is a positive development. Also, you can do a follow-up with the Ombudsman's office.
这是我们看到的好进步的地方。另外呢，你还可以发申请到 Ombudsman's office。
The final option is to file a mandamus to compel the government to adjudicate cases. Generally speaking, I would recommend that the case should be pending for at least 2 years. We have lots of cases pending 19 months. It seems 18 and 19 months is quite normal for adjudication of cases.
最后的方法就是 file mandamus 相当于就是告政府不作为的一个法律诉讼，但是我们建议就是说那个逾期2年的 case 才做这种方法，但是现在目前看到的审核18到19个月都是比较正常的情况。
After the case is processed by the IPO, the file is then transferred to the State Department National Visa Center that completes the review of the case and sends the file to Guangzhou for final interview.
在526申请通过之后呢，移民局就会把申请的材料转到美国国家签证中心，然后他们在审核申请人的个人资料，审核完毕之后才会把申请的材料转到广州美国领事馆。
We now have a dedicated assistance desk. There's the email address nvceb5@state.gov, which has been very helpful in order to add derivatives, to ask for fee bills, and to do inquiries on the Child Status Protection Act.
现在我们看到国家签证中心专门给 EB-5开了一个专用的邮箱。我们曾经用过这个邮箱，他们的速度比以前的快很多，就是2天之内可以给你一些回复。
The email address for processing has not changed.
但是一般交 Pact-3 和其他证明材料的那个邮箱还是必须交到以前的那个老的邮箱地址里。
In the 5 minutes that I've got left, I'm going to go very quickly on what advice should I give Chinese investors for EB-5 today.
接下去我们花5分钟的时间，来讲一下中国的投资人应该如何应对现在的一个情况。
If the waiting line is long, the number one rule is you need to get into the line now because it's only getting longer.
如果排期很长的话，你现在要做的就是赶紧开始申请，因为排期可能会变得更长。
For those people who are delaying, it's not going to get better, it's going to get worse.
如果你再等的话，可能以后排期的时间等的时间会越来越长。
Based on current estimates, I believe we should look at filing for everybody at least over the age of 18, very clear file for the 18-year-old as a principal right now.
现在超过18岁的子女就一定要作为主申请人了。
It may be possible to file for a 16-year-old if the parent countersigns a subscription agreement, the regional center and the project are prepared to accept it, but as of the present time, we cannot guarantee that a 16-year-old subscription agreement will be accepted.
如果是超过16岁的小孩，如果项目方允许的话，父母可以和申请人一起签署那个认购协议，但是我们不确定项目方是不是可以认可未成年的人作为主申请人。
One thing I'm advising people to do is to apply for a 10-year B1, B2 visa or a 5-year F1 visa before they apply for green card, because after you file for a green card, the government may or may not give you a temporary visa.
第二个建议就是在申请 EB-5之前，先拿到一个10年的旅游签证或者是5年的学生签证，因为在你递交了 EB-5申请之后，他可能就不会再发旅游签证或者学生签证给你了。
But the State Department has indicated that they want to make it easier to get tourist visa even though that you have filed for a green card. Hopefully they will do that also for students who have to wait a long time because of the long Chinese waiting line.
但是国务院曾经说过，他们保证会把那个申请旅游签证和学生签证的这个标准稍微放得简单一些，来保证大家在等待 EB-5或者等待绿卡的这个期间，可以旅游或者是可以到美国读书。
I also want to remind Chinese nationals that if your spouse was born in Hong Kong, Taiwan, Vietnam, any other country, then they do not have to be subject to the waiting line.
还有就是，如果主申请人的配偶是香港、台湾或者其他国家出生的，主申请人就算是在中国大陆出生的，也可以使用配偶的名额，也就是说不用等中国人的排期。
I want to run through 4 other visa categories because immigrants need to consider these other options either together with EB-5 or separately from EB-5.
然后除了 EB-5之外，我们还想给大家参考的是其他4类的签证类型。
Number 1 is the company transfer visa.
第一个是L1 的跨国公司的高管人员签证。
Number 2 is the H1 professional worker visa that requires a job offer and you can only file for 1 week in the beginning of April, so H1Bs need to get started right now if they want to file.
第二种是H1 的工作签证，这个的话你需要有一个美国的雇主愿意雇佣你，并且必须在4月1日之前递交，所以如果你想要交 H1 的签证的话，现在应该开始准备了。
The O1 visa is for people of extraordinary ability, and that visa has quite a lot of flexibility. I strongly recommend it for people who are excellent in their field.
第三个是 O1 杰出人才的签证，这个签证其实有很多的可变的地方，所以我们推荐大家考虑一下这个签证。
The E2 visa is a treaty investor visa. Unfortunately, Chinese nationals are not eligible. Taiwanese nationals are eligible, but the simple bottom line with regard to the E2 is that Chinese citizens would have to get the passport of another country, such as Grenada, Caribbean country, before they are eligible to apply for E2.
第4个就是 E2 的协约国投资者签证，目前中国跟美国是没有协议的，所以中国的公民就没有办法申请 E2 这一个签证类别，但是台湾人是可以的。如果是中国出生的人，但是是拿其他国家第3国的签证，比如说第3国的公民，比如说是加拿大的公民，这个就是可以申请 E2 的这个，就符合申请 E2 的这个资格。
In the last 2 minutes, I'm going to run through the various visa categories. The L1 visa is for managers, executives, and specialized knowledge employees.
L1 签证就是给跨国公司的高管人员，或者是有特殊技能的雇员来申请。
It is quite difficult and complicated to do for new startup companies that do not have many employees.
如果是新开设的公司，而且公司没有很多员工的话，可能申请起来难度会比较大。
The good news is that if the US company has at least 10 to 15 employees and the individual is supervising professionals, they may be able to get a green card under the EB-1C category.
如果美国的公司有10到15个员工，并且申请人是作为管理人员来管理，他管理的人员如果也是高学历的专业人员的话，就可以符合这个要求，并且可以通过 EB-1C 来获得绿卡。
But I caution that people who try to get an L1 when they are a first-line supervisor, meaning directly supervising employees, as opposed to a second-line supervisor, those cases are being rejected. So the manager must be a second-level supervisor. The manager must supervise supervisors, not directly supervise workers. So you have to have 2 layers of employees, or the L1 manager and the EB-1C will often be rejected.
这个比较想要提醒大家的一点就是 L1 它的那个管理人员必须是管理第3层的管理人员，也就是说他下面必须要管理的是第1层经理，然后那个第1层经理下面才是管理普通的员工。如果你的申请人只是直接管理普通员工的话， L1 签证是很可能被拒掉的。
The H1B is a very good option for professionals who have employment offers in the United States.
H1B 主要就是给在美国有找到工作的人，就是有雇主愿意雇佣的人，并且是有学历符合学历要求的人可以申请。
The requirement here is that the individual must be paid the prevailing wage in a professional position, but if they have an H1B, they can also be sponsored for green card through employment second and third preference.
H1B 的要求就是，雇主支付的工资必须达到当地的行业工资标准，所以不能太低，并且他的那个工作必须是以专业相关的工作。如果拿到 H1B 的话，可以变成EB-2 或者 EB-3 的绿卡。
The O1 visa can be sponsored with extraordinary ability in art, science, education, or sports. The word business is left out by mistake. It's art, science, business, education, or sports.
O1 杰出人才的签证呢，可以是在艺术、科学、教育和体育领域的杰出能力，以及是在商务领域的杰出能力，也都是可以申请 O1 的。
They do not have to have an employer. They can have a manager or agent sponsor them, but they do have to have a contract for work in the US.
申请 O1 不需要在美国有雇主，也可以是美国的经纪人或者是其他联系人。
The O1 can be converted directly to a green card in a matter of months if the person is truly extraordinary and at the top of their field.
O1 可以在几个月的时间之内递交EB-1A 的绿卡，所以这个是是大家可以考虑的一个途径。
The E2 visa is the last one that I will deal with tonight, and I apologize for going so quickly, but I want to finish within about 1 hour.
E2 是我们今天谈到的最后一种签证的类型。
So the first point is that unfortunately China does not have an E2 treaty, only Taiwanese have.
目前中国是跟美国之间是没有这个协议的，但是台湾是有的。
So for Chinese to get E2s, they would first have to get the passport of a country that does have E2. I mentioned the country of Grenada. There's several that will give passports based on investment.
所以要走 E2 签证这一条路呢，在中国出生的人可能要先拿到其他第三国的护照，但是这个第三国也是必须要跟美国之间有协定的。比如说有个国家叫 Grenada，它可能投资很少的一部分金额就可以拿到它的国籍。
The requirements for E2 is that there must be a real and active commercial enterprise, and the minimum investment amount is usually about 150 to 200 depending on the type of business.
E2 跟 EB-5有相似的地方，也就是投资一家新的公司，但是它对投资金额没有明确的规定，通常我们认为是在15万到20万之间也可以，但是这个投资金额跟你要投资公司的类别息息相关。
And obviously that is not a good solution for some people.
这个可能对于大部分人来说不是一个非常好的解决方法。
So in terms of investor options, there's the E2, the L1, and then the direct and the EB-5 regional center.
所以现在看来，投资类的签证大部分主要就是 E2、L1 和现在有的我们 EB-5的这一类。
This chart will be posted on my website, and all of you will be able to read it and review it.
我们会把这个表格 po 到我们的网站上面，所以大家到时候都可以看到。
This shows issues such as can the wife work, what are the requirements, and the various other advantages and disadvantages of the 4 investment options that are currently available.
这个表格上总结出申请人的配偶和小孩是否可以工作或者是上学等等一些细节的详细的信息，大家可以去网站上看。
I have gone over my time of 1 hour. I hope that you have found this EB-5 presentation interesting. If you have questions, please email them to my assistant, Mary Ma at Wolfsdorf. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you on our next EB-5 webinar.